why that's so important?
Yeah, I started working on that. It was probably in 2014. I'd been working with the University of Washington Innocence Project, and we were looking at wrongful convictions. And so we started talking about how you store DNA evidence. And I was out touring evidence rooms and started seeing these white boxes stacked to the ceiling. And I'm like, what are those? And they were sexual assault kits. And they basically said most had never been tested. And it was just heartbreaking to me. Every one of those boxes was somebody whose life was probably shattered, right? It was never investigated. And they're potentially very dangerous people still in our community. And so, I ended up working with this amazing group of people. A lot of survivors came forward to share their stories. And, since that time, we now have a law that says you have to test every kit. We got the resources to test the backlog of 10,000 kits. They're about halfway through testing those kits. And, from the 4,500 that have been tested, they've had 800 hits to the FBI system, which means they linked to other cases. And so, we are identifying serial rapists, which we know this is a crime where it's often repeated. And it's often people they know and people they don't know. And so we are moving forward. We were one of the first states to set up a tracking system where a survivor can go online now and check the status of their kit. We have a high-throughput lab we funded last session, and once that's up and running, instead of taking a year to test kits, now it'll be 45 days. One of the other things that we passed that I'm especially proud of has been requiring officers to do trauma-informed training. And, this is just so important because often officers aren't given the tools they need. I've sat through the classes. They're actually in Normandy Park in the 33rd District, the commission. And often they'll start a class and the officers will be like, the arms are crossed, right? And, by the end of it, the officer's saying, I wish I would have known this. Like they don't, trauma, there's a response that often, if you don't know trauma, you might think the person's just not reporting it well, or why there's gaps in their memory, or why they're not emotional. And so, really helping law enforcement have the tools to better work with survivors is going to have, a more trauma-informed system. And that's what we're trying to do from the point they go to a hospital to the whole process. How do we support that person whose life has really been just torn apart by this very violent crime?